Well, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? My name is Rob Howden. I think we're good to go. I am producing this broadcast, not just hosting as well. David Cole not able to be here with us today. But welcome to another edition of our Face2Face here on the EKN YouTube channel. We're also streaming it on Facebook as well. This is going to be a really interesting one, kind of one of our first roundtable editions of the Face2Face. And today we're going to be talking all about Texas karting. And over my 20-something years in the sport, from the magazine through to ekartingnews.com, I've always enjoyed, number one, going to Texas to the events because there's just a passion for the sport down there. And I think we always see on the national level so many unbelievably talented racers coming out of the state of Texas. The competition's so good there. Lots of champions in the Superkarts USA, USPKS, IKF, you name it, whatever it is. For anywhere from Jordan Musser, you go back to the other days with guys like Kyle Martin, of course, Jake French, Colin Lind, the Texas Tornado. There was always a bunch of great guys. Trevor McAllister, of course, as well. We'll talk more about that as well. Let me jump on here, and if you have any questions, we pop that out there on Facebook and YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there as well. Let me get things dialed in. All right, I got a bunch of great guests, and that's the cool thing. We kind of did a cross-section of industry, track owners, racers, and as well, guys, or a young lady, actually, who actually runs the regional program. Brittany Lobaugh joining us from the Texas Sprint Racing Series. Rod Clinard, a racer most people know nationally, but also working very hard in Waco, Texas, at the heart of Texas Karting Club. Alan Rudolph, the veteran, the ambassador of the sport, who, of course, has the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy at Speedsportz Racing Park, and Mark French, who has full Gas Motorsports, and of course has been the tuner for his son, national champion and national level driver Jake French for many years. Let's bring them in. 4 guests coming in today. There's Rod, there's Alan, there's Brittany, and there is Mark. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Rob.
How's it going?
There we go. Again, 3 o'clock, 3:02 in Texas. I appreciate that afternoon time. Again, let me jump over to the comments. I'll be ready to go if anybody does ask any questions of any of our guests here today. We're talking Texas karting, and the cool factor is I've had a chance to be down there over the last number of years to a bunch of big races, national races, regional, club, whatever it may be. But I feel like there's another really kind of big surge coming in Texas. It's really all over the sport and all over the country. I think we saw what happened after COVID. And Mark, I'll start with you because I know that you're really big time into it. We saw, after COVID that we were all locked up for 4 months, missing our sport. And all of a sudden, when we all came out, everybody went crazy. The sales numbers were massive. Everybody buying stuff, supporting the sport. But man, from the foundation through to regional, national racing, everybody went racing again. And you and I had so many conversations about how things went. You launched Full Gas Motorsports, your program with Burrell Art, that, working as a dealer and a distributor for PSL. And it was gangbusters for you. And early on, I think that speaks a lot to what's going on club level racing. And I know you're on the ground. So let's start with you first. What are your feelings on how things are club racing wise, the foundation of the sport in Texas?
It's for us in North Texas, it's really big. It's been crazy. Like you said, I started the kart shop in 2019 and with COVID and everything and hitting in 2020, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably shouldn't have done this,
right.
And just, when I'm as a family trying to save money and put things back and not sure what the future is, people are buying karts left and right. It was out of control, to be honest with you. And it was that way across, pretty much everything that from automotive stuff and that kind of thing. So no, it was a very, very successful year and the club is thriving here in North Texas and it's big.
Let's talk about that. You and I talk every once in a while about how things are going at North Texas. You're on the ground, and one of the beauties, I think, of the sport, and you and I mentioned this when we talked earlier this week as well, there's a lot of really good shops that come out to work at North Texas. And that's key, right? Having the shop there. Of course, Alan's got a shop with Speedsportz right there, trackside. But to be able to have you there, Full Gas, it's, I go back to when I first started karting. To have that club, to have that shop there, whether it's a kind of trailer or he's got a brick and mortar, whatever it may be, you bring so much knowledge and obviously the inventory of parts. But can you talk a little bit about how you feel it's been to have you there? Of course, Core Karting is there, Kart Racing Solutions there as well. There's a lot of good people at North Texas Karters. And it seems to me you being trackside, you've really been able to bring a lot of people into the sport.
Yeah, my shop's a little bit unique because I don't have a team. Pretty much I support anybody. We call it the Texas Red Army. So anybody that's on a red card or Ricardo or Leclerc, I support them. And so for me, I'm there to help everybody. I mean, you don't have to be on a Charles Leclerc. I mean, I sell all parts, chains and sprockets and everything to help anybody. But my thing is, for me, when Jake and I first started at NTK, there was one kart shop, but there was really no one to help us understand, to get faster and to help someone. And so that's kind of where I fall in. Not having a team, I walk around the pits. I'm constantly trying to help people get faster. And again, it doesn't have to be on a Burrell. It'd be nice if they were on a red cart. But the thing that I see is people get frustrated. They can't figure something out. They can't go fast, and they're not there the next weekend. And then they're not there the next weekend. And then their stuff's for sale. So I try to intercept that and get them to where they need to be and help them. And if they want to go to the regional, then, there's plenty of teams out there that can help them.
And I think that kind of speaks volumes to those of us who've been in the sport for a long time. We kind of forget what those first 6 weeks were, right? Those first races, that first season when you don't know what to do, you don't know rear width, you don't know tire pressures, you don't know what gear to go to. There's just so much to learn. Once you get in it for a while, it becomes more, you're used to it. But man, at the very start, it just takes someone, a little guiding, a little helping hand, right, to put them in the right way.
Yep. Yeah, and it's anything, just like you said, air pressures, all that stuff. So it's ever changing.
What about other tracks as well, Mark, that you've been to? Are you seeing the same kind of growth, the same kind of excitement at some of the other maybe club tracks that I know you go to NTK a lot, but I know that you've traveled to some of the other tracks as well.
No, absolutely. It's all the way across Texas, and Alan will speak to a little bit about his track, and I know Katie down there is doing well. Rod is really putting in a lot of work in Waco. So it is across Texas in general that it is picking up quite a bit.
Alan, let's come to you, and obviously you're a different facility in terms of everywhere else. In fact, the fact that you have the rental car track there that runs for the public as well, and I know that area around Speedsportz, all the hotels that are going to be going up, it's just going to get more and more traffic there. Can you talk about how the growth of the actual club at Speedsportz? I know it's not designed for, it wasn't designed that you don't hang your business off a club. You have, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, you've got the rental program, the track is obviously available, but how has that club grown for you? Are you seeing kind of the same thing that maybe Mark and everybody is seeing at NTK?
Well, being a new facility, it's hard to say what the growth was really like. I know that there's a lot of new people that we brought in. There's several hundred people that come through here and ride our rental carts a week. And if I could just convert, a handful of those, to become racers, that's really the goal. And so we've done that, not to the numbers. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that are interested. They look at it. Wow, what's going on the other side of the fence? Yeah. But to actually then jump in, and do a school, the school's picked up a lot. And just the kart racing experience, as I call it, just these guys that are from the rental kart track wanting to just experience a thrill, something faster. Let's do it. Yeah. But to then convert to spending, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 or whatever the number is on a new kart package is a whole nother step, And so while there has been those that have converted over, it's not the masses like you would think. But all the same, it's kept our club strong. It's kept when I say club, I include Katie in our club in the fact that we kind of run together. We go there, they come here. It's really
the Greater Houston Series.
Greater Houston Series. Yeah, we've been doing that for a few years, but we're actually not going to do that next year because, well, I kind of did a poll on some customers and having another series just to have another series didn't really make sense. Yeah, and you're not really a club series anyways. You're a track series, right? It's not a club. Yeah,
you're a track that runs a series. That's a little bit of a difference.
It's a totally different deal than the club mentality at Acadia or NTK or whatever. So next year we're going to have a series. Katie's going to have a series, and I have customers that want to still go to Katie, so we'll do that. But I don't, just having the Greater Houston in addition to the club doesn't really make sense. It's too much racing. It goes back to the too much racing thing we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Like, if their 10 races, my 10 races, another Greater Houston series, and then Brittany's 5 races, and our team goes to USPKS and who knows what, all of a sudden my calendar is completely full and it's just too much.
That's it. I know one of the things, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about you starting your own kind of team. I know that's not something you were planning on doing, but it just kind of happened. Guys young kid come in, they're, you're their teacher, you're the coach. Well, hey, we want to race with you wherever we go. So Speedsportz Racing Team kind of grows up there as well. I know that when it started, it was a lot of youth. The other young kids were with you. And that's really one of the things I think we always look for, right? The growth of the sport is great, but if we have more drivers in micro and mini, cadet, kid kart, whatever it may be, is good. What do you see in terms of the youth karting at the track series at Speedsportz? Is it pretty solid right now?
Well,
I know it ebbs and flows in different places.
Yeah,
right?
it's an interesting time because at the beginning of the year, there was literally 17 kid karts lined up on the grid one time. And wow, I don't even know where they came from. And then, but now we're towards the end of the year, it's 4. And I don't know where they went. And so I was hoping that they would move into cadets and the cadet. Well, now all my cadet kids are moving on. So the cadet class is getting smaller while juniors are getting bigger. So you're right. It's this flow, and so we do need more cadets. We need more kid karts getting in. That's really where it starts. I mean, every single week, pretty much for the last couple of months, I've done a kid kart class. New kids, getting in, and the majority of them are buying go-karts or trying to find a go-kart to buy. So that's really what needs to continue to happen is just, these little kid kart classes. Right?
Exactly. We've got an amazing cross-section here right now because obviously NTK has been around forever, right? A member-owned club that has been strong for many years. Of course, Alan, getting Speedsportz built, a new track, like he said, doesn't have that history and kind of building that track series. And then Rod, let's come to you right now. This is the opportunity to chat with you here because I know we know Rod Clinard from being a top, national driver in terms of master shifter racing. You're a guy that's had a national plate before, so you got a lot of experience in the sport. And then, you're from Waco. There's the Heart of Texas series, or track there. And it's something that tell me a bit, how did you get into it? Because obviously this is something I didn't know a lot about it. It's obviously a smaller track in Waco, Texas. It's been around forever, as you have told me. Give me a little bit about the background, how you've got into it and what's kind of going on right now, a resurgence at that facility.
Well, the way I got into it is a guy brought a go-kart to where I worked. And I asked him, I said, hey, what is that? And it was an old Monza chassis with a Rotex 125 Max on it.
Okay. Yeah.
I ended up buying it. And they told me where a track was. I couldn't find it. I finally found it, and it was the Heart of Texas track.
Okay.
So I started racing there back in 2013, I think it was. And from there, I learned about the history of the track, and it was built in 1959 by Jack N. Peck. And he ran into a guy that he worked with at Mercury Tool, which is right there on the grounds. And the guy was working on the weekend at Mercury Tool making a go-kart for his daughter. And he liked it, and he started making chassis, and that was how the Hornet chassis got started.
That's amazing.
So then he built a track to test the chassis. So there was Mercury Tool, and then the track literally right behind it, and that's where he would do all of his work. So
you guys have a group of people right now that are really kind of trying to refire everything at the club, right?
Yeah, for sure. Me and 5 or 6 other guys really grabbed a hold of the track. It was in bad condition, money-wise and personnel-wise, and we got a hold of it, and right now we really have a great group of core members that are doing a great job. I'm super proud of them. A lot of them, I would say 70% of them are first-year, second-year racers. They've learned a ton. It's about racecraft, position, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
So it's just starting from literally the ground, working up.
And we talk a lot about, we use our hashtag Operation Grassroots. That's really what this is right now for you guys. It's essentially the majority of the categories are all the Briggs 206, right? For sure.
We have basically 4 classes: kid, kart, juniors, seniors, and open. And the open is usually like a Leopard or an X30 or something like that, 125cc and under.
And you and I talked before. You guys aren't that far from Austin and Dallas, so you were saying that you had some actually pretty solid events this year, where you had some people coming in from those different tracks and different areas. They were actually coming to race with you guys as well.
Huge events for Waco. I mean, I know in my little world it was huge, but it was crazy. We were scrambling just to get corner workers, and you can give a flag to somebody and just tell them to go out there and flag, but you got to teach the flagman, what to do. You got to wave the flag. Don't undo carts until all the carts are by, and that sort of thing. You don't want them running out on the live track trying to undo a cart.
That's it.
You get smoked. Right? Yeah.
Now, Rod, you've been in the sport for quite a while now. You said 2013. You've done a lot of national level racing. Are you feeling the support from around Texas in terms of people wanting the Heart of Texas program in Waco to kind of grow? Do you feel like kind of part of the family, and can you feel that momentum overall?
For sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Texas is a brotherhood almost. You know, if you're from Texas, you're a Texan. You know, and it's you really do feel that. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, Brittany, let's come to you right now, because obviously I'm always a big fan of the pyramid of karting, right? That foundation level, which is the clubs. Then you have the regional level. You have to have strong regions. That's where the top drivers from all the clubs go head-to-head at the regional level. Then the top regional level drivers able to go national level racing. That's when it all works, that's how it works. But you guys have had a fantastic season with the Texas Sprint Racing Series. I know you got a good connection with the IKF and with SCUSA and all the program. Just tell me a little bit, just give me a little kind of synopsis of how strong the Texas Sprint Racing Series was here in 2021.
Well, 2021, we had some of our biggest numbers, especially our KA senior class. I mean, we had over 40 in, I think, 2 of our events this year.
Wow.
At NTK, I think we started 39 karts in the final this year, which I believe they said if it wasn't a track record, it tied with a track record from a Rotax final they had years ago.
That's massive.
And I think the bet was if everyone was going to make it through turn 1 and incident free, it was like everyone was on the fence expecting something big, and it was like amazing.
Yes. In fact, I have a picture from turn 1 on my wall right over here, because we all like held our breath and prayed like as they were going around. And in the picture, you can literally see every single person that's not on the track standing at the fence watching the race, because we're all like in awe. How the hell did they make it by?
Good for them. That's
it
fantastic.
was incredible.
Especially at Denton. Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's good.
It was incredible. So we and at Speedsportz, I believe we had 44 entered there. So we're hoping and expecting that next year is bigger and better. And with our KA classes, the juniors, I think there's a handful of juniors moving up to senior. There's a few cadets I know that are moving into junior. So I think that a lot of these classes are going to be stacked next year.
Now, Brittany, a question I would have is you talk about KA being super strong. When you look at the other classes that you have, what are some of the other ones that you would say, hey man, these are really strong, or like you said, we're going to see more people moving up? What are the other big classes you have? Because you run both 2-cycle and 4-cycle, correct?
Right. So there was a few things that you'll probably see next year with us is a few classes sort of fell off this last year and a few gained momentum. So we actually had a really strong kid kart class again this last year. I want to say we had an average of 8 to 12 every race, which is darn good for that age
That's
group.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic.
And I know some of them are moving up, but there's some, like we got a trickle of newbies at every event, so I fully expect it to still be a good showing next year. And then let's see, the 206, we lost some of our 206 masters. They've moved in. Okay, so we lost some of our 206 masters. So some of the classes that we really didn't have big entries in, we, unless there's a major change, we probably won't have them on our roster next year.
Makes sense.
So we're kind of doing away with the X30s. We want to really build that KA class. X30, it seems to still be doing well at the national level, but KA is just more reasonable and affordable to run at the regional level.
So Mark Trailer is asking a question here. I'd love to see some X30s get back out to TSRS. Is there a thought? Is there a potential? Would there be room for it if people wanted to do it?
Yes, so there's definitely still room for some of these classes that we've seen fall off, but we really need to make sure, because a lot of people will be like, we want to run this. We actually had an X30 class in our final event in Amarillo.
Okay.
But, I really need people to be signing up for the season and talking to me, because if I don't have 7 to 10 committed for the season, you have 5 at the first race and you slowly trickle to 1 or 2. And,
that's it.
And it's not really fair to the people that really want to be there when the others are just in it for 1 or 2, events of the year. So there's definitely always the option to bring back some of these classes with interest. But in the past, I've seen with us that if it dies, it's much, much harder to get it brought back the following year. So people have generally already traded in their engines and, are on board with the new program.
And that's what happens, right? The regional series is designed to reflect what is big at all the clubs, right? And a lot of clubs don't have an X30 category, right? They're going to have that KA, and that's obviously we've seen so much out of the KA that's been big. Brittany, I have to believe that as this thing grows and grows, we've seen it on the national level, it's going to start trimming down some of the tracks you can actually go to, because obviously with the big haulers and everything, what's the schedule going to look like next year in terms of where you guys are going? I don't know that I printed it out. Tell me where you guys are going for next year, and obviously some issues with the size of the paddocks, right?
Yeah, we unfortunately have outgrown several tracks that we would, like in the beginning, Waco was one of the tracks on the schedule when we first started. But it's been several years since we could really fit there, unfortunately.
Yeah, Rod, I don't think you could put 40 KAs on that track, could you?
We could try for sure.
We could try. Brittany, keep going.
I would have a whole lot more prayers for that race, I think. Right? So our first event's going to kick off in NOLA like we have the last 2 years. So we have lots of room there. Our next race will be in Speedsportz, which, last year was a packed event. And we've gotten creative with our passenger vehicle parking and things like that, but we'll continue to manage. And yeah. I've got some other ideas how to better use some of the space and things like that. But, we're going to do our third race at NTK, which we're hoping we moved it a little further into June, so we shouldn't have our rain issue like we did last year. And we'll be in Amarillo back in August next year. And our final event in September, we are still, I'm pretty sure I know where it's going to be, but I'm waiting just a little bit longer to announce that one.
Copy. All right. Here's a question right now. Jake Phillips is asking, would like to see more regional series offer the Rock VLR class along with the KA100. Is that something you guys have considered at all? I know it's more of an IAME IKF program, so I don't know that the VLR fits in, but is there, I don't even know, Mark, maybe you guys can talk about it. Is there a VLR component? Is there guys with engines down in Texas?
Right now, I know there's a couple tracks that are running a little bit of rock stuff. Yep. But right now, being an IAME series and that being where we get a lot of our prize packages and things like that, yep. I'm not ready to add in any rock stuff. And, really a lot of our regional and club level drivers, as far as I know, aren't running the rock engines as much in Texas just because we don't run it as a regional series.
And that's, that's what a regional series is supposed to do, run the classes that are run at the clubs. Right. I know a lot of regional series break off and do something different, and then they have their own deal. Well, they're not really then a regional series, right? You get the regional series is supposed to draw from the clubs, which I think you're on there for sure. Right.
So, and there's a few other things, just when you start adding different engine packages to classes, it makes it much more difficult to maintain, consistency in the class, right? Like you have to change weights and there's so many to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that the racing is competitive and fair for everybody, that it just becomes a lot more difficult to keep that.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, Mark French, let's get you. You're on mute right now. You want to get yourself off of mute there?
Yep.
Attaboy. One thing you and I talked about today, because obviously the regional program with Brittany is great. We'll come back and ask a little more about 2022. But one of the other things going on, Alan, of course, with Speedsportz was huge to have that track there. There's a couple other tracks that are being built. I know that you mentioned when we talked earlier, there's a track down in San Antonio that's kind of a rental facility right now, but could potentially move into to racing again. And then we may see kind of DKC, the Dallas Karting Complex, come back in stronger terms, because I know that there's some construction going on there to actually separate and have a rental kart track and a competition track like Alan has at Speedsportz. What are your thoughts on the growth of karting in terms of a couple of different facilities like this, Mark?
Yeah,
and MSR too. You talk about MSR. Let's bring that up too, right?
Yeah. So Dallas Karting, I can tell you, I know it's been in the works for quite a long time, but construction is happening, and they've got bulldozers and things are going on. So it's a it's going to be a hot one for sure. You know, those guys over there do a good time with the rental carts. I mean, it's insane the amount of rental carts that they do there. So
yeah,
now having two separate tracks, I think it'll really attract more club level guys to go there and be able to participate. And then there are two tracks they'll be able to join together, so they can have a super track, if you will.
What about San Antonio? What do you know about the San Antonio facility?
Larry Scross, I think is his name. He it's a rental track right now. It's pretty small. I think it's kind of like, it reminds me of when I've seen the picture of it, reminds me of Rock Island. So I think it's all lefts and then maybe one right or something. It's pretty small, but I know that he's built a beautiful facility there with the intent of going bigger and having some club racing there. I think he's actually going to start doing some club racing just on the track he has. But it's a really, really nice place. And then right there in San Antonio, which is a hotbed, you know, could be potentially be a big revenue stream for karting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, Austin Henry saying the same thing. What about Crescent? You and I talked about that a little bit, right?
Yeah, so Crescent, I've been involved with quite a bit. I have a satellite location there with 11 Motorsports, their Burrell art dealer, Ricardo, and they've built a big 5,500 square foot shop right there on the racetrack. But unfortunately, the facility just isn't finished. The track is, I'd say, 80%. You can drive on the track. When I say the other 20% is basically just safety stuff that they need to clean up. But the track is drivable. I know that the 11 Motorsports guys, they rent carts there, and not rental carts, but actually full-size carts, anywhere from a baby cart all the way up to a shifter cart. So you can actually get on track. But I'm not sure of the completion. Brittany may know. I know she was really hoping to have a race there last year.
Yeah, it was Brittany. It was on the schedule, right? At one point.
It was. And we had an exceptionally rainy year. And along with some other, hiccups they had within the county and stuff like that, everything just got set back. And then with the pandemic as well, there were so many cost changes, right? So when you budget for certain expenses and the cost of concrete goes up and the cost of all the things, now you have to go back to the drawing board and start, all of this back over. And if you're funding and things like that, I mean, there's just so many different levels to, Mark knows too, there's just so many levels on how this track needs to be completed that, it's just going to take more time, which is, again, why it's not on the schedule this year for next year, because we're just not, they're just still working through all those things. And, sometimes when you get excited about building the track, you forget about some of the little pieces, like running a big event like ours really takes, right? Because the track itself, like Mark said, is drivable. But, when I have to bring in scales and there's not a level ground to put it on, or there's no parking facility, I just, we got to wait till that stuff is actually done and in the ground.
Yeah, let's not bring up rain anymore, because Rudolph will start having nightmares about when he was building Speed Sports. Right, Alan?
Did I tell you it rained this morning?
Did it rain this morning?
Well, woke me up this morning. It was crazy.
Alan, let's talk about Speed Sports. What else are you guys doing? I know. Obviously, you got the club track. The rental car track. You got the track itself. I know you're doing drifting there as well.
Yeah.
Do you got motorcycles? You got the motorcycle guys on there too?
Yeah, motorcycles. I basically about a year ago kind of opened it up to whoever. It goes back to the COVID thing. When we shut down, talk about it, panic mode. We got this massive facility here that has to make noise to make money. And it was quiet for a little while. But the only thing I could do really was open it to members only. So I let motorcycles join as members, cars, all the drift car guys joined as members. So we had a real nice spike in membership last year, so that people could come drive. Basically everyone wanted to get out of the house. And so the drifting thing, as much as I hate it for a lot of reasons, because they tear up my grass. They don't really tear the track up at all. In fact, it kind of makes it look good. That puts rubber down over the whole damn thing. So it looks like it's kind of fresh. But they go off track and, rut up the edges. And so like I had to get 5 loads of dirt dropped off yesterday so that I can have a dirt party next week and fix all the ruts that they put in.
You need to be like George Barber at Barber Motorsports Park. You go off the track there, you get an invoice for the sod.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea right there. You drop a wheel, it's $100.
Yeah. And they're noisy as heck, so it pisses off my neighbors a little bit. So I don't really like that. And they do get annoying, but at the end of the day, it's a good group of guys and they're pretty consistent. And it's a revenue stream that I never even thought that was possible. Chris Ager from Pass Acres is the one who from day one was like, dude, you got to do drift cars. That's where the money's at. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Until I finally did one. And then the reality is it's a good little revenue stream. So we're going to keep doing that. And then there's a car club that comes once a month and treats the track like an autocross. That's become pretty popular. I think at the last event, we had almost 50 cars, and they just, instead of doing autocross in a parking lot with cones, they're on the go-kart track, which is way better than, a parking lot with cones. So
that's it.
Whatever we can do to turn and burn.
Now I saw some information as well. You're planning on putting another race on next fall, right? You got some not this fall, but next fall, correct? Right? I guess we're already.
Yeah, it's basically replacing what was the Supernat shootout thing last year, and get some good money behind it, a cash purse again, and some other special awards that we'll announce all that stuff next year, but. Just trying to do a big one-off race again that pays some money. And to be fair, I think the Supernat shootout thing kind of scared away the regional guys. I mean, we have such a big regional crowd right now that if I just get the top level regional teams to come play, well, that's what I'm looking for, Just a big money race is really what it boils down to. And those guys didn't come to the Supernat shootout because they, in my opinion, assumed that all the big name guys, were coming, and they just didn't go. So
I hear you.
Rebranding it, remarketing a little bit differently, and just make it a big money race.
You've got one of the best racetracks in the country. I always love going down there. When are you going to get a big national?
You're killing me right now.
I know, dude. What is happening? Right?
Look. Brittany is probably the TSRS this last year is probably a good example of what, quite frankly, let's just throw it out there, Mark Coates is afraid of, that we don't have enough space. Yeah. But we packed Brittany in with no problem. And when we didn't have cars parked in the parking lot, there was a lot of open space. The reality is the way that we had it set up this time, you couldn't put a car in the parking lot. We had to park in other places. It's the 300 plus cars or whatever that end up coming, and they take up a bunch of pit space. So when we didn't have any cars parked there was a lot of open space in there, and I could lay it out. There's other ways I can lay it out too. I mean, when we first opened and I was trying to get Tom to come down here, Scusa Pro Tour, he's like, I need 220 spaces. I gave him a pit map with 219 spaces. So there's plenty of room, but I think the news is already out that probably USPKS won't be coming here, although Mark has not told me that yet. And when I hit him up about it, he said, listen, didn't say no yet. We don't know yet. So that to me is kind of a heavy no, but I got to get him here to show him, that there's plenty of space. And then obviously with the hotel right across the street, for those who stay at the hotel, they can just walk. You don't even have to drive a car over. The biggest thing that chews up a bunch of space is RVs. Well, I have an RV park right next door, so you can just put them big coaches over at the RV park and walk over. There's plenty of room here. I know that I can make it happen. I just can't convince them to get here and see it firsthand.
Here's Mark Trailer, and I'll agree with Mark. Speedsportz creates some of the best racing of any track in the country. Man, I've really enjoyed calling races there. I've said this. There's legitimately 7 or 8 places to pass on that racetrack.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When I designed it, I really wanted I wanted it to race well. I wanted it to be fun to drive and race well and passing. And it's interesting that there are a couple of corners where where I thought on paper would be a passing zone, but it doesn't race that way. And then there's other corners where I didn't think the racing would happen, but as soon as the carts start mixing it up in turn 7 and all of a sudden turn 8 is a passing zone, and through 9, and man, so there's places that pass because of the racing that I didn't think would be passing places. Yeah, it's cool.
Here's a racer loves it. Alex Stanfield. I love Speedsportz. That's fantastic.
You, Alex.
Yeah. All right. So listen, we've kind of gone through everything. I want to now jump into the national thing because Texas, I don't know what it is. Like I said, I've been announcing national races for 20 something years, and there's always badass drivers out of Texas, right? I don't know what it's probably the racetracks. It's probably maybe plays a bit to Denton and the way you have to be. It's a bull ring. You have to have your elbows up, whatever it may be. Mark, let's start with you because you've got a kid who has gone from Denton, Texas, you not knowing what to do, to being, one of the number one shifter kart drivers in the country for however many years now. What is it about Texas, man, that like, it's just the Texans want to run nationally. That's one thing. I do like that. You got a lot of great teams. They want to come and run national races. But what is it about Texas and that makes these guys so good? Is it the fact that you can drive all year long? What is it?
I think that's some of it. I think you can drive all year long, and then these guys race so much, and competition breeds competition. So they, all these guys call each other and decide to go race. And like at Denton, there's everybody knows shifters kind of struggling a little bit, but in Denton they'll all call each other, and there'll be 20 shifters at a club race just because everybody called everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just kind of one of those things that these guys call each other to get ready for a national event, and they practice together, and they all pretty much all raced each other. And the same thing with the junior ranks too. These guys, junior ranks, cadet ranks, all that go race nationally, they're groomed at the regional level to do well, and they understand all the rules and most of that. So when they go to the national stuff, it's all a little bit easier.
Isn't it amazing how there's been a couple of different generations of it as well? I can go all the way back, like I said, to the old school guys when I started Shifter Kart Illustrated with the Colin Linds and Brad Field and again guys like Kyle Martin and Trevor McAllister and so many great guys that have come out of Texas. And then you get the group of Masters drivers that have come through, right? You've got Jordan Musser, you got Ryan Kinnear, you got Rod, you got Nathan Stewart, all these badass guys coming through the Masters categories. Pardon me?
And single speed stuff too, Miguel Muir and
Miguel,
100%. Sean, I mean, there's a lot of single speed stuff too, not just shifter.
Then you go to this new generation of kids that have come through the junior class and are now kind of in the senior class. You look at Alex Stanfield and John Burke. You look at Brandon Tyner. Like it's ridiculous how many. Yeah, Jack Crawford, exactly. You look at these. It's just. I don't know what's in the water down there, but if you want to be a good race karter, go live in Texas. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's crazy. Rod, what do you think about that, man? You obviously the Masters stuff was pretty badass down there, and you guys are just you guys fight every race. You guys fight tooth and nail. It's amazing.
For sure.
Right?
And I remember the first time I went to Denton after I thought I was good in a shifter. I went up to Denton running like mid 36s, and then Jake French runs like a 35.2 or something. And I said, well, these guys are obviously cheating, but they weren't, and it was, you have to have the mindset to keep digging for those hundreds, keep digging for the tens, do all the little things because they all add up. Yeah, I think that's what Texas drivers do. They keep digging.
Hey, let's give a shout out to this guy here, Richard Seiler. The NTK shifter guys are chatting all the time, helps with participation. But Rich has been writing a badass article series on eKarting News. I know Mark, he's down there. I know you've helped him out a little bit, but Richard's the guy getting back into shifter kart racing. And every time we get a new submission from him, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's awesome. He showed up at Las Vegas and
I saw that.
Check out the race. Yep.
That's awesome. So, all right, let's Brittany, let's come back to you. Let's go around the horn about 2022. Brittany, let's start with you. What are you excited about for anything new for 2022 for the Texas Sprint Racing Series?
Well, the biggest thing that just got announced and released yesterday was the Kart Chaser. So we're going to broadcast our races next year.
So, and Xander was your play-by-play guy last year too, right?
No, our announcer last year was Deke.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So, but Xander's got a great little thing going, and really, we have so many people in Texas, but we have family everywhere. They just wants to see the action, right? Yeah. I think the last race of the year we were able to, broadcast online. But we really want to step it up next year with our entries being where they are. That's sort of the next step for us.
Yeah, and Brittany, numbers breed numbers. Do you feel like you're going to have even more next year? Do you feel like it's kind of have you leveled off? Have you plateaued? You're at 40 in KA. That's kind of a plateau. Yeah. But you've got guys moving, like you said. Juniors moving up, people moving all over the place. Do you feel like there's room for growth in some of the other categories to maybe take you to a different higher level?
Yeah, I think there's definitely still some growth. There's the option for people to run multiple classes. Like Miguel Muir was racing KA senior and master last year.
He's a badass.
So we'll really just see what everybody happens. But I assume, or I'm hoping, that there's more entries next year, that the classes stay strong and get bigger. I'm hoping some of the Swift classes grow. I know several of our kid karts, like I said, are moving up to micro, and different things like that. But from what I understand, people are still excited, and our 206 program is still great as well. There's a lot of kids that'll run 206 cadet along with micro or mini Swift. And man, those kids, I'm like, how are you still awake at the end of the day? Because I'm tired watching you, right?
No kidding. All right, Alan, let's come to you. I know that I think I keep seeing online, I think you guys still have like an endurance race coming up for the rental kart track. That's coming up pretty soon, right?
That's not the rental kart track. That's our annual reindeer run.
Okay.
We call it the reindeer run because it's right around Christmas time.
Tell me about that.
Christmas. Well, it's a LO 206 only race. And it's 4-hour enduro.
That's awesome.
We run into the night. We start late enough in the afternoon that it starts in the daytime, finishes at night. And it's been hugely popular. Last year, I think we had like 24 or 26 teams, right?
Yeah.
And it's just all the LO 206 platform only.
I love it.
It's super fun. It's a great time.
That's awesome. What about the Speedsportz Racing team as well for next year? I know you and I keep talking about that a little bit. You've kept it tight. You have a certain amount of guys that are kind of your family or your people for the track. You did USPKS this year. I know some of your guys were stepping up and looking really good. Is that in the plans for next year as well?
Yeah, that's 100% the plans right now at this point. We're as a team waiting to see if USPKS was coming here or not, and then deciding that was going to be our national level program. But I have a good core group of cadets my cadets are moving to mini. So I'm right now I have one micro, one mini for next year, and a whole bunch of juniors and a handful of senior kids. And Aiden will be back running with us next year. So excited about that. And Mark.
Thank
you, Mark.
That's awesome.
So, like you said earlier, the race team was never something that we wanted to do. In the beginning, it was not in our business plan, but it became just evident that we needed to have one. Mark has got a great program where he gets to go hang out and help everybody out. Well, that didn't work for me necessarily. So here we now have this race team, and it's been a great extension of the business, and it's an extension of my school. So
exactly,
coaching the kids and coaching new people coming in is all part of Speedsportz and my school.
That's fantastic. All right, Rod, coming around the horn to you right now. Let's talk about Heart of Texas. One thing I was going to ask you is, I know that you said you're kind of growing your program. Are most of your racers, are they stay-at-home guys? Are they running just your club, or do some of them go out and potentially run some of the regional races?
I would say 20 to 30% are travel from out of town. We got a couple guys from NTK coming down, and a couple guys from Hill Country coming up. So it's a good mix. So
feeling like there's good momentum for next year?
Man, lately if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have said we had great momentum. But lately it's been kind of like a Bitcoin stock chart. It's been kind of up and down as far as attendance.
Yeah. Well, listen, when there's lots of racing, like you said, people just stay
that's what I was going to say. Part of that is just it's the end of the year. Our club races at the beginning of the season, we had almost 100 entries at club races, and then it boils down to there's just by the end of the year, everyone's burnt out. It's too much. It's just too much, So we're going to do as a track owned, but we're going to do less races. The track series. We're going to do less club races. I as a business, I need something happening here like every month, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Brittany series coming or whatever, or my club races. So between the club races and regional series stuff and my annual reindeer run, that I have something going on once a month.
That's
but
a good
our
idea.
club
That's
series, our club
That's
is only going to be 8 races.
So Rod, listen, you and I talked before. I said the same thing. This has been like the only year in the last 27 where I haven't raced even one race. And I don't think you've raced that one race this year. Are you going to do anything else? You ran Rock Vegas. Are you going to do anything else this year or what?
I'm certainly going to try. We have, like I said, we had a good group of core people at Waco that I think is ready to just kind of run a race. where I feel like I have to be there, which I really don't. They can run a race.
Understood. Yep.
But yeah, for sure. To get back in the saddle, I need to for sure. Because after that rock race, I was whipped. I was absolutely whipped. Yeah, I was way out of shape. Yeah.
Listen, you and I talk. Listen, I know you want to get out to Super National, so you're saying that if anybody needs a mechanic, you're available.
I'm for hire. That's right.
That's it. I figured I'd do a classified on here. Give Rod a hand.
Yeah.
Nathan Stewart's gonna pussy out and not go racing this weekend at Super National. I think he's busy with work, so I know that you guys wrench for each other. So you seriously, but you're available. Somebody wants somebody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
All right, we'll know that.
How about bartending work? Rod?
I can be a bartender.
Dude, 15 bucks an hour. Let's go.
The tips is where it's at.
Hey, Mark French, I don't know if you're going to be here or not, but Mike Edel's put this out here. NTK's endurance race this weekend. Sign up.
That's right.
You going to be there?
I will be there.
That's
Gas
it.
Motorsports will be there, not with a team, but obviously supporting my customers and helping out. So,
Rob,
yes,
not to jump in there, but the fact that you
Bring it
haven't
in.
raced all year seems like you need to come do the reindeer run. I'm pretty sure somebody will share their seat with you.
Listen, 100%.
Oh, Alan, did you see your son call you?
I
out?
know. I just because
What did he say?
I'm going to change the subject. Alan needs to race the
Look at
Super
that.
Nats. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Aiden Rudolph dropping the hammer. Yep.
Yeah, no, that ain't
Well,
happening,
listen, Aiden, don't mess with your budget, dude. If he's going, coming out of your budget. I would race except
I'm in
for,
he tells me I'm in life shape now, not racing shape. So I drove a shifter cart. I drove a shifter cart
Look at
about
this.
a month ago, and I swear to God,
How'd that go?
after like 10. I thought I was hauling ass, and I was like a second slower than him, and I was going to die after 10 laps.
Which speaks volumes that Bonner Moulton can still do it.
Oh,
right?
man.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
No, listen,
Right?
you got it. If you're going to drive a shifter cart properly today, you got to do it all the time.
That's
and be in shape. You just can't be out of it for a couple of years. I mean, it's been years since I drove one, believe it or not, and there's no way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just not surprising, the minute me racing comes up, here comes Don Gilbo. Cole is faster.
Oh,
Yeah.
shots fired.
Never-ending
But
debate.
he's still never beat me. Ever.
So why don't you two just come share a go-kart for the reindeer run?
I just can't. I got no time.
Whatever.
I can't do
I
it.
got no
I'll tell you about it later. Mark, we'll wrap up with you. Mark, obviously, well, let's talk a bit about Full Gas. Where are you going to be next year? Obviously, the program you told over 100 go-karts, I think, over the last year and a half or whatever. It's amazing what you've been able to do down there in terms of selling Burrell product and really supporting people as well. What are your plans for 2022? And then we'll talk about Super Nats with your kid.
yeah, just to keep doing the same. Sales a little bit down this year in terms of karting, but I've started having the benefit of selling all the parts, so it's been really nice. But still the same thing. Try to support NTK, be there as much as I can, and my thing with NTK, I usually get there on a Friday and stay until Sunday. And because it's just a massive flow of traffic from Friday afternoon practice all the way through the race day, and then all the people that stay on Sundays. So that's usually my weekends when I'm not on the road with Jake. And then to support the regional, support Brittany and have several people that, just like we talked about, several people that are moving up from kid karts and the cadets. And then cadets and the juniors, and it's kind of neat to see them evolve and step to the next class. So that's been fun helping them do that.
So, what about your kid going to try to win the Super Nats here in Shifter this year? What do you think?
I think it's pretty good. We unloaded a new kart in the new S14 at Rock and built it on Wednesday, and it showed massive
Put it on pole.
speed with put it on pole and showed massive speed. So we're really excited. I'll tell you, we have, I think 15 shifter karts under the tent for PSL and almost 30 total karts under the tent for Super Nats. And a lot of the Europeans are coming too. So
couple of quick questions here, Mark. We'll go right with you. Here's one here first and foremost. Not sure if you talked about it, but how about the new fuel Scoos is introducing to their series? Any thoughts? I'll come to you, Mark, obviously, because you tune for your kid. What do you think about this Aspen fuel? Are you part of the testing that they did at Utah?
No, but I've had conversations with a lot of people and in particular Billy Musgrave. I probably figured he had done some testing with it.
Yeah.
And he gave me some real good insight, and basically it's a weird fuel. Horsepower wise, it was exactly the same. And Billy said the biggest thing is if you tune off of spark plugs or exhaust or piston, it's going to be difficult to do because the spark plug will read one way, the piston and the exhaust will read another way. So
all right, interesting.
Yeah, so that's but in terms of fuel and I'm sorry, in terms of horsepower and stuff, it was exactly the same.
All right. One last question here. What about the IKF Grand Nationals at Speedsport next year, Alan? Alan's like, I'm in.
Yeah, no, I'm in on that. It's funny you say that. I
think that's a great idea.
I do too.
Yeah, we're in talks. We're in talks to try to bring IKF Grands to Texas in the next few years. So I don't think that's completely unreasonable. Can't say for sure next year, but I would hope sometime soon.
Well, guys, I think that's it. Questions are pretty much done. Thank you so much for joining us. I really wanted to kind of dive into talking about what's going on in Texas, and I think obviously everybody giving their kind of feel for it. You know, Mark from the NTK side and the industry side, of course, Alan, everything he's doing at Speedsportz, and Rod, thank you so much for coming in. I know it's kind of a last minute call. It was actually Mark that said, "Hey, you got to talk to Rod about what's going on in Waco." I just like the fact that there's this track there that's kind of a club track, at least said from the late '50s, a legendary track in the sport. And you got a good group of people in there trying to rebuild it. I think that's just amazing.
Absolutely. And a huge thanks to Mark and you, Rob, for letting me on your show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And Brittany, man, Texas Sprint Racing Series, always great to have a strong regional program. And here are the numbers you guys have. It's, again, numbers breed numbers. Momentum is big. Man, just good luck with next year. Sounds like things are going to be fun.
Thank you. When we have some more information,
thanks, guys.
hopefully we'll
Sorry,
chat more.
Brittany, you froze. You froze, Brittany. Keep going. I'll let you finish up.
Oh, I was just saying, hopefully we can have another chat next year when we have more, official news.
That's it. Count me in. We'll do it. We'll do it again, guys. Thank you so much. I'll drop you. Stay in the back of the studio, and we'll wrap things up. We'll get rid of the guys here. Come back to me by myself. I'm sure it'll allow things up here. There we go. All right, guys. Hey, fantastic opportunity to talk to some of the players in Texas karting. I think you could just feel the momentum, the strong club level racing, a huge regional program right now. There's going to be live video of that program next year as well. And we keep talking about the fact that so many of these Texas karters, there's so many good drivers. I had a chance, of course, to announce for many years for the Texas Pro Kart Challenge with Mark and Gina French, and to be able to be down there and see this wheel-to-wheel action, man, it was fun to watch. And I think, again, we go to these national level races, and these guys are running up front for race wins, whether it's a micro, mini, junior, senior, and of course, masters as well. Shifter kart guys have always been good, right, in Texas. But appreciate them joining us, folks, and thank you so much for being part of it. We do appreciate it. My name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.